Hi, Maryam. Thank you so much for joining BPF and doing this interview. Um, you've had an impressive journey in law and philanthropy. Can you start by telling us a bit about your background and what initially inspired you to pursue a career in these fields?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background's in law. It's something that I knew I wanted to do for a really long time, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a solicitor or a barrister. I hadn't really made up my mind. And even in my final year of university, I still wasn't sure, but I had started to look more into the humanitarian sector. So I had volunteered abroad, I was volunteering in orphanages, and I started to realize this is actually something I want to do long term. So I fell into the humanitarian sector, I think, like most people. And for me, I couldn't imagine doing anything different. I've worked on with a range of organizations, with charities, with INGOs, public speaking as well, in Europe and in the Middle East. But yeah, it's definitely helpful to have a law degree.
So, you completed your LLB with honours at City University of London with a focus on Islamic law, aviation law, and international criminal law. What drew you to these specific areas of law and how have they influenced your career in philanthropy, for example?
It's a great question. Islamic law, as a Muslim, I was really interested to find out more about it, specifically focusing on family and property law. And I learned so much. Aviation law, on a personal note, I love planes. And I actually wanted to be a pilot when I was younger. So because I didn't get to do that, I thought aviation law would be the next best thing. Again, I learned so much, and it was so different to something like Islamic law. And international criminal law, again, I love the global aspect of things. So for me, it was really important to try and incorporate that into my final year modules.
So, how did you transition from studying law to working in philanthropy, particularly with Save the Children UK and the IRC as you are there now? What sparked your interest in this sector?
So I think there's two parts to it. There's the humanitarian side, which is obviously around helping people, and again, that also links back to law. But philanthropy and partnerships is very specific, and it can also be seen as quite niche. But what I realized is I love speaking with people, I love connecting with people and building a rapport and a connection. And that's all about what philanthropy is about. So working with, high net worth individuals across the globe. So I actually started in the Africa and New Markets team, working with high net worth individuals and corporates and foundations in Africa. And then I moved over to the Middle East team. So I'm currently in between London and Dubai at my current role at the IRC.
So, you work with high network individuals and key organizations in the Middle East and Africa. How do you approach relationship building with such influential donors, and what strategies do you use to ensure this long term engagement?
Yeah, so for me, I always make sure that I build a really personal relationship with them. I always say to my team, donors and partners, they're not just there for their money, but they're there for their time, their energy, their expertise, and they can offer so much to us as organizations and charities, whether you are a small or a large INGO. So I always try and make sure it's a very personal relationship that I build, connecting with them, outside of work, asking about their life and how they're doing. And, philanthropy is also very personal. So I always will try and find out, what is the reason that they want to give? What's the ambition they have, and what's inspired them to want to give back to the world.
You've led a multi-million income diversification strategy that includes Islamic giving and cryptocurrency. How do you see the role of new technologies like cryptocurrency in the future of philanthropy?
Yeah, so I think that income diversification is really important for any organization, not just charities. And I actually led on our Islamic giving policy at Save the Children. So working with a sheikh, working with scholars and consultants to make sure that the organization was Zakat compliant. Cryptocurrency is an ever-growing trend, and again, it's a really great way to look at diversifying your income. A lot of charities have been able to receive cryptocurrency as a form of donation. It's particularly more popular in the US and then also within the UAE. But I do think that's the way that the world is going, and it's also a really interesting avenue to explore away from traditional philanthropy.
You've been mentoring students at City University of London. How important do you think mentoring is in developing the young professionals, especially those from a British Pakistani background?
Really important. I had a mentor in school, I had one at university, and they were both Pakistani. And it was invaluable to me because I was able to look up to someone who had achieved so much. And that's what I try and do when I give back to those students. And I think especially, being Pakistani, it's so important that you have inspiration around you and you're able to learn from others. And I'd always say don't be scared to ask questions to whoever is mentoring you. But it's really important, and it can help expand your networks and your way of thinking as well.
As a former board member of Goldgaze USA, what advice would you give to young professionals looking to serve on boards, especially in the non-profit sector?
I think that there's a misconception that you can only do something like that when you have decades and decades of professional experience, and I don't think it's true. If you don't try, you never know. But one of the things I would say is always try and find out what can you offer. So what have you been able, look at what you've achieved so far in your professional life, in your personal life, and how can you use that and utilize that to give back to the community, to society. And there's always something that, will fit whatever you have your experience in. I was approached with Goldgaze, but also I recognized that I had so much to bring to their organization in terms of the structure and advising the organization.
You've spoken at several high-profile events, including the British Ambassador's residence in Qatar. What has been your most memorable speaking engagement, and what message do you hope to convey?
I love speaking generally, but I would say I've been invited quite a few times to fundraising conventions which really focus on global philanthropy. And for me, I love that I'm always with panelists who have different experiences but also very similar, because I always come away from those events learning so much. On a global scale as well, I think it's just been amazing. I've been able to speak in Qatar, in the UAE, at these high-profile events, but also showcase the work that I do as an organization. And I'm also very conscious that I'm a Pakistani, I'm representing them as well, and I hope that can only ever be inspiring to them.
You have a passion for international relations and global policy. How has your global travels influenced your understanding of different cultures, and how does this perspective help you in your work?
So I travel a lot outside work. I've been to over 70 countries now, and it's something that I just love to do. I've done it solo, and again, there's not many people of color or Pakistani who have been able to do that. And I think we're seeing more and more, especially women, do it, which I think is so incredibly inspiring and makes me so happy. But me doing that and traveling on that level has also enabled me to connect with other cultures, other people, and learn more about them. And because my work is on a global scale, it's only been of a huge benefit.
What advice would you give to young Pakistani professionals, young British Pakistani professionals who aspire to make an impact in international development philanthropy?
Reach out. You should always make the best use of your networks. I think LinkedIn, for example, is an incredible tool to use, and you should really look at how can you connect with people on there. There are so many events that are taking place in the UK and outside of the UK, and I think networking is an incredibly powerful thing to constantly be doing. I don't think you can ever network too much. And just never be afraid to ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get. But at the same time, people are always willing to help. And if someone was to come up to me and ask for advice, I'd be more than happy to give it. But I think sometimes it's just taking that step to actually do that.
Looking ahead, what are your future aspirations, both personally and professionally?
So I have been in Dubai in and out for the last few months, but I'll be finally moving there very soon. And so for me, I know that, especially for the next few years, I'll be based between here and the UAE. For me, I would love to stay in the humanitarian sector. I am so passionate about philanthropy and the power of philanthropy and partnerships. And currently at the IRC, so I definitely do want to stay in that sector, and especially because I've been focusing on the Middle East, I've often thought about what if I can incorporate that into somewhere like Pakistan, with an INGO or like a non-profit there.
Lastly, how do you hope your work and achievements inspire others, particularly regarding and with regards to British Pakistani community?
I think the charity sector really does lack diversity, and Pakistanis especially. So all I hope is that people feel inspired to, if this is something you're interested in, then just know that there is a space for you. I often felt like at the beginning of my career journey that there wasn't a space for me at the table, but there very much is. And I think as Pakistanis, we can only bring, we bring something different. And for me, it's been really important to try and convey that whenever I speak to other Pakistanis.
Thank you, Maryam. Thank you so much for talking to BPF. And we wish you the very best of luck with everything in the future.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.